We finally got a Shadow of the Erdtree trailer. So for the last couple days, I have been going over the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer, and I have some speculation and a couple theories, and today I wanted to share some of them in this video. So before I get into any speculation, actually, I do want to share some things that have been confirmed by Miyazaki in an interview that occurred shortly after the release of the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer. So two things. One is that the time frame is going to be the exact same timeline that the main game took place in. It's going to be exactly in the same span of events that happened in the main game. And then secondly, we know that the realm that Shadow of the Erdtree takes place in is actually going to be a new map different from the lands between. So I just wanted to put that out there first of all, because that is going to kind of shape my first theory here. So my first bit of speculation here pertains to the setting of the DLC, which is the Realm of Shadows. My idea that I have is that the place that the Shadow of the Erdtree takes place in has some ties with Erdtree burial and the lack of true death in the lands between. As we know, a property of the Golden Order, created by America, was that there was a lack of true death, aka destined death. However, this doesn't mean someone dies and is instantly resurrected, and this is where Erdtree burial came in. Corpses were buried at the roots of the Erdtree, and from there, they'll be absorbed and reborn, and that is the idea of Erdtree burial. So my thought is that perhaps the Realm of Shadow that the DLC will take place in is where the deceased reside until they're reborn, or in the case of those who have been stripped of their grace and cannot be reborn, their new home. I think this is represented by the spectral headstones seen throughout the trailer, or at least that's what gave me this idea. The way I see it, they're like the equivalent of the specters of people we see throughout the lands between and can interact with. Furthermore, we know that America has some involvement with the Realm of Shadow in her past, so perhaps it had to do with her plan to enact the Golden Order and was used as a means to make resurrection in the lands between possible. In the trailer, we hear a character say,
"Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of messmer's flame."
Now going back to what I said about those who have been stripped of their grace, they cannot be reborn. The Greater Will strips those who opposed it of their grace, and I believe that once the Elden Ring was shattered, many other people were stripped of their grace as well. Although that part of the lore is a bit foggy to me, since some Tarnished were given back their grace and revived in the events of the game. But anyways, my point being is that since those stripped of grace were typically defectors from the Golden Order, perhaps Messmer's role was to punish the quote-unquote sinners who had lost their grace. So perhaps the Realm of Shadow is essentially purgatory for those who have died in the lands between until those who possess grace are returned, and those who do not are punished by Messmer. But again, this is just speculation, and heavy speculation at that, since we don't have much to go off of as of now. So I've spoken a bit about what I think Messmer's role is, but I want to talk more about Messmer as a character. My first impression of Messmer was that he's another demigod and a son of America who may have been cast away for some reason. A character in the trailer who I'd assumed to be Messmer has a voice line where he says,
"Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?"
And I really believe the person he's addressing here is America. One key feature of Messmer is his red hair, which is important because characters with red hair typically have ties with Radagon, such as Malenia, so I believe Messmer to be another child of Marika and Radagon, and a sibling of Malenia and Miquella. In the game, there are butterflies that you can collect as a material, two of which actually represent Malenia and Miquella, the Aeonian butterfly and the nascent butterfly respectively. But there is also a third butterfly that never quite fit in, the smoldering butterfly. But seeing that Messmer has association with flames, this butterfly could possibly represent him, confirming that he's a child of Marika and Radagon if we follow the logic of their children having a butterfly that's representative of them. Furthermore, it was basically confirmed in another interview with Miyazaki that Messmer is a demigod, as he mentions that the throne Messmer sits upon in the trailer is the same type of throne seen in the cutscene before Morgoth's fight, which were assigned to the other demigods. I mentioned earlier that Messmer was outcast from the lands between for some reason, and I think I also have an idea as to why this might be. You may have noticed that Messmer has draconic symbolism all over, from his helmet to stone wings on his armor, even one of his snakes has a wing on it. But if you look at his eyes, you can see they're identical to how the Tarnished's eyes look when you partake in Dragon Communion enough times. If this is the case, and Messmer was in fact a demigod that took place in Dragon Communion, this could explain why he was kept secret from the lands between. Dragon Communion is described as a grave transgression in the description of the magma worm scale sword. Also, in the past, there was a war between dragons and the inhabitants of the lands between, and considering Dragon Communion can potentially lead someone to transform into a dragon, this could have been a concern to Marika at the time. This wouldn't be the first time we've seen a child of a god outcast for relations with dragons in Soulsborne games. In Dark Souls 3, Gwyn's son, the Nameless King, is introduced, and we find out that he was exiled for making peace with the dragons, so perhaps we could be looking at a similar situation with Messmer. So before I move on, really quickly, I wanted to say, if you've made it this far in the video, please consider leaving a like as it helps me out a ton and I really appreciate it. And if you do enjoy Elden Ring content and lore videos like this, consider subscribing as well because that also helps me out a whole lot. Anyways, back to the video. So the theories I've shared so far are gonna be the big ones if I'm being honest, because they had the most evidence that I could support with stuff we already know in game and stuff that was provided either in the trailer itself or through Miyazaki's interviews. That being said, this portion of the video is going to be less of the meat and potatoes of my speculations and more so just some things I wanted to make note of. So first off, I think we're going to be seeing more of Godwyn in the DLC. Now, there wasn't really anything in the trailer that alluded to Godwyn, however, I believe in some parts we can see Deathblight, which as we know is associated with Godwyn. Furthermore, since we are following in the footsteps of Miquella in this DLC, we know that he really grieved Godwyn's death and wished to give him a proper death, so perhaps we might help Miquella enact his plan in the DLC. Something else I noticed at the beginning of the trailer was this character, or at least their feet. I was thinking that kind of looks like Melina, and I'm not entirely sure about that, but it kind of looks like her shoes and her cloak from what we can see. So if that is Melina, maybe we'll find out how she ended up with Torrent, since we do see Miquella riding on Torrent's back in the teaser image foreshadow of the Erdtree that we got last year. So maybe we'll learn more about that as well. And one last thing I wanted to talk about is this character right here. Now, I don't have a lot to say about him, but I did want to point out he is the same person shown earlier in the trailer on this painting, as you can tell by the emblem on his cloak. I also wanted to point out, it kind of looks like he's being impaled by a shard of the Elden Ring, or at least some type of rune. It looks a lot like what Marika was crucified on in this picture right here, and it also looks like what the Elden Beast uses on you in its grab attack. So not really sure what that's all about, but I'm super interested to know more about it. And that is gonna wrap up today's video. So if you made it this far, I just wanna say thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, let me know in the comments below, whether that be Elden Ring, Soulsborne, or lore videos in general. I also greatly appreciate any support or feedback in general, as this is going to be the first actual video I upload to this channel. So again, that will mean a lot if you guys left a like, subscribed even for more of this content, or just left a comment on this video. If you have any thoughts about my theories or any theories of your own in regards to the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer, also definitely let me know, because I'm super interested and I'm so hyped for the DLC to come out. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video.